All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Justin D'Souza. I'm a quantitative specialist here at Statistical Solutions. I have my colleague Isaides here assisting me today, and she will be answering questions during our webinar. And if we have any questions at the end, I will answer those questions in a Q&A session. So today we will be discussing how to select an ideal survey instrument for a quantitative study. So if you have questions, please type those into the chat box, or you can type them into the question and answer box. Okay, so Statistics Solutions provides services in nearly every portion of the dissertation process. I will be discussing what services we provide. For today's topic, we will discuss selecting a quantitative instrument, and then I will conclude with a summary and question and answer session. Statistics Solutions provides assistance with virtually every portion of the dissertation process, starting with topic development and going through the discussion chapter. So the way our company works is we assign a methodologist to you, and we will assign a literature review specialist. We have both quantitative and qualitative methodologists, and the literature review specialist can help you more with the topic development, finding articles to support your research, and laying down the theoretical foundation for your study. So we assist with the introductory sections, topic development, and prospectus concept papers. Depending on which college you go to, it might be a prospectus or a concept paper. We assist with the proposal chapters, which includes the introduction, literature review, and the methodology. We assist with IRB forms, data entry templates. We can host your survey for you in SurveyMonkey. And as I mentioned, we can assist with both quantitative and qualitative results chapters. We assist with the discussion chapter, PowerPoints for proposal and final defenses, and journal publications. So if you've hit a roadblock at any point in your dissertation and you need some assistance or guidance, please give us a call at 727-442-4290. On this slide, I have a couple web links to our previous webinars and upcoming webinars that we will be conducting. So I have those web pages here. This is what they look like. So this page here is the upcoming webinar web page, and you can see what we will be discussing in the future. So we have a topic coming up on mastering mixed methodologies, mastering your discussion chapter. So we touch on each chapter of the dissertation, but we also dive into specific topics like we did today, like doing today, about selecting a survey instrument, which is more of a methodology. In our webinar archive, you can see past webinars we've conducted, and you can watch the presentations for those topics. We will be sending everyone a copy of the PowerPoint, and we will be sending a recording of today's session as well. So diving into today's topic, we are going to be discussing how to create or how to find an ideal instrument. But on this slide, I discuss creating your own survey instrument. So ultimately, if you're thinking about creating a survey instrument for a dissertation, I think that should be your last resort. You've looked for surveys for your topic, but there's nothing specific that measures the constructs that you need. The reason I say this is because there are several steps you have to conduct if you're planning to create your own survey instrument. You need to pilot test it among a group of experts, which may involve doing a Delphi study. You need to prove that the instrument is valid with an EFA or a CFA, so that's an exploratory factor analysis, and or a confirmatory factor analysis. You need to prove that the instrument is reliable, So taking these points into consideration, this can add several months up to a year or even more than that to your dissertation process. So I always caution clients in creating their own survey instrument just because you don't want to be paying tuition for an extra year to your university. I would say creating your own instrument or a journal publication down the road to where you aren't so financially tied to another organization or your university. So always, I would say keep that as a last resort. One of the first things you should look for when looking for a previously validated instrument is finding validity support. So there will always be some type of validity check that has been conducted, and there's many types of validity. Good thing. So in your methodology chapter, when you're discussing your survey instrument, you need to identify one or two of these validity approaches, not necessarily all of them. It really depends on your school's template. But in general, I see that you need at least one support for validity. So we have face validity, which is evaluating the feasibility, readability, and consistency of the questions being asked. And that's usually done through a panel review prior to the survey being established as a validated tool. So this is what I was talking about on the previous slide, is that you would have to do this check. You would have to do face validity to prove that the survey is answering questions regarding what the intention of the survey is. So we have agreement and disagreement among a panel of experts. And what you want to look for is a kappa value that justifies the base validity. Content validity is the degree to which the items in the instrument reflect the content in which the instrument will be generalized. So for this, you need a content validity ratio. So face validity and content validity usually go hand in hand. You'll probably want one of these to support validity for your instrument. Then we get more into the statistical type of validity. We have construct validity. And within this overarching group, there's many subgroups of validity. So we have discriminant and divergent validity. And what this does is it tests that the constructs have no relationship. And this is typically, all of these types of validity are checked with an EFA or a CFA generally. This is a factor analysis. So you'll see potentially one of these mentioned in an article about your instrument, whether that's discriminant, convergent validity. So as I said, an exploratory factor analysis is usually conducted to test for discriminant and divergent validity and convergent validity. So when you're going through articles, it's good to do a control F, control find, and look for EFA, CFA, validity, reliability. Those are the keywords you want to look up in previously validated articles. Okay, so then the factor analysis, there's many criteria here that I've provided. So you want to look for factor loadings of at least 0.4. And you don't want cross loadings of items above 0.4. So this is getting into the specific statistics for this. But when you do an EFA, it generates factor loadings, and those need to be above 0.4. Convergent validity, also with the EFA, you want to look for eigenvalues greater than 1 and factor loadings that have at least 0.4. Okay. Reliability is looking to see how consistent participants are in responding to your questionnaire. So Cronbach alpha is the most popular form of reliability that is reported. And what this is checking to see is how consistent are people responding to the questionnaire. So if they're saying, I strongly agree to one item on the survey, if it's a Likert scale, Generally, you would want them to be consistent and be agreeable on the other items comprising that scale. So it's kind of a way to make sure people are not randomly responding to questions, they are reading them for the content and providing consistency. So I provided a citation here that tells you anything really above a 0.7 is in the acceptable range for reliability. If you get lower than that, it's questionable, poor, and unacceptable. And that's where you might have to make modifications to the survey, potentially, or you might have forgotten to reverse code items in your survey. But thankfully, if you're using a previously validated instrument, even if there is low reliability for your study, the previous research will still allow you to continue it, to continue using that instrument because it's been justified previously. Okay, so I have that reference at the bottom, George and Mallory. The next thing you want to do is obtain scoring instructions for the survey. So most of the surveys used in dissertations today consist of Likert scale items. So generally, you're going to take an average or a sum of those items to make your overarching composite score. So you need to understand, first of all, is there an overarching variable that the survey measures, or are there subscales? So something like leadership, say you're using the MLQ, the multi-factor leadership questionnaire has 45 items. But the intention of that instrument is not to merge all 45 items together. There are subscales within the instrument. So about 20 items measure transformational leadership, 8 items measure transactional leadership, and 8 items measure laissez-faire or passive avoidant leadership. So you need to understand, identify if there is an overarching variable and or are there subscales. Sometimes it'll be both. Sometimes there will be an overarching construct you can measure and there are subscales, or sometimes there will only be subscales. So on the previous slide, I mentioned about reverse coding with the Cronbach alpha. You need to identify early on, do I need to reverse code any items on this survey? So that's generally done when you have a negatively phrased survey or a negatively phrased item that needs to be reversed on the Likert scale. So you need to look out for that. Some additional notes is that you want to identify the key construct or variable that you're searching for. So this is going to topic development, maybe early methodology phase. Pick a few key words that your topic is about, your purpose statement and your problem statement, and then search for those keywords on Google. So you might want to put, for instance, if you're using the job satisfaction construct, on Google, you can type job satisfaction previously validated survey or job satisfaction survey, reliability and validity. This will generally provide you with previously validated articles about the instrument. That's my go-to method for finding a survey with a keyword like job satisfaction. And here at the bottom, I've provided a link to mids.org, which will allow you to search for an instrument with keywords. This website is also really good. You can search for keywords in the search box, and they will provide surveys that are out there. So for instance, if we look up stress, if we're trying to find a measure for stress, you can find this one right here, perceived stress scale. And then it gives you some references about the validation of the tool. What is its primary use? It gives some background literature. It gives you psychometrics on the tool. And it gives you the actual scoring instructions and the survey itself at the very bottom as Word documents. So if we click on these, I'll go to scoring and information. And this is what comes up. Okay, so it mentions that there are multiple versions of the survey. So there's perceived stress 10, 4, and 14. That has to do with how many items are in the survey. So there are 3 versions, 10 item, 4 item, 14 item. It also mentions that you need to reverse score items here. So it tells you what items need to be reverse scored prior to using the instrument or prior to scoring the instrument. You can see the Likert scale here. And on the other attachment, we can see the actual survey itself. All right, so all 14 items right here. Now, say we wanted to find reliability and validity support for this tool. So this is where Google's your friend. It may provide on this website, mids.org, sometimes under psychometrics, it might provide some information about reliability and validity. But if I go on Google and type perceived stress PSS, Cohen was the author, and then reliability and validity, you can see what comes up here. So this is a great website as well, and I'm sure many of you have used it at some point. NCBI gives many articles for research, and when you're looking for an instrument, this is a good one to use because it will have the entire article. So this was a reliability and validity article about the PSS 10. So as I scroll down through here, we can see if I just do Control F and look for validity or valid, we have a lot of support here. So we have moderate concurrent criterion validity, and it gives you statistics. Okay, so it shows how stress was related to different constructs, frequency of stressful life events in the past year, negative associations with perceived health status. This is all validity. So we have convergent validity down here with citations. So you always want to cite a previous article that has established this tool to be reliable and valid. Okay, and the other component is reliability. Okay, and right here, the PSS 10 has demonstrated adequate internal consistency reliability with an alpha of 0.78. So that's the Cronbach alpha value. Anything above a 0.7 is considered in the acceptable range. So that's just an example of what you need to look for. So once you've done that step and you've found the instrument, or maybe you can't find the instrument, maybe you found validation articles on it, but you can't find the actual tool itself, you might want to follow up with the author, the original authors of the survey. And there are many ways to do that. Sometimes they put their email on the article itself, or they will have a LinkedIn profile and you can contact them directly. And once you've reached contact with the author, you may need to do this anyway because some surveys are private endorsed, so you need permission to use them. Others are they're public domain, so you don't need permission. But just to be on the safe side, I would say reach out to the author of the survey, request permission to use it, and ask the author to send you any validation articles about the survey itself, in addition to scoring instructions that they have developed. So they can tell you there are subscales, there's one overarching construct. Do I need to reverse code items? Do I need to take a mean or sum of the survey items to develop the constructs? Those are the type of things you can ask the author. Okay, so in summary, I would say avoid creating your own survey unless you have no other choice. I think it should be a last resort. just because of the time it takes to develop one. You have to do a pilot study, you have to prove that it's valid and reliable, and that just adds months to your dissertation process. So I would recommend doing it as a journal publication afterwards on your own time. Then you want to search for keywords in your topic to see if there is a previously validated survey that's been developed. I provided the link mids.org. And you want to identify key reliability and validity statistics to report in your dissertation with citations. And you want to obtain scoring instructions for the survey. Sometimes that's in the survey itself. Sometimes it's in a separate article, or you may need to reach out to the author themselves and ask for these scoring instructions. All right, so just to reiterate that our company, Statistics Solutions, provides assistance with every part of the dissertation. So if you've hit a roadblock, please give us a call or email us. You can call at 727-442-4290, and you can email us at info@statisticsolutions.com. We'll now open up the webinar to the question and answer session. So if you have any questions, please type those into the chat box. It looks like Isades has put all the links in the chat box. So you can see the scheduling link to speak with our consultant, Janine, and she'll tell you about the services we can provide. And we have a list of the upcoming and previous webinars. Do we have any questions about the topic today? Okay, so we have a question from Shantisha. You mentioned that creating your own survey instrument is not good for a dissertation, but it may be good for a publication, but there'd still be a delay. Yeah, there can still be a delay even if you're doing it for a publication, but I think the time is better spent for a publication because at that point, you may not be paying tuition at your school. So as long as the pilot study and the validity checking takes, you're still paying tuition at your university. So I think it's better done once you already have an approved dissertation. Find a similar topic in that area, and you can consider developing a survey. And we have a question from Chang. We adopted an existing questionnaire and modified a few questions and reported in the dissertation it has a fine Cronbach alpha of 0.92 and a validity with KMO 0.828 and an expert validity questionnaire for the content validity of the modified questionnaire. What else do we need to report concerning the validity and reliability? I think you covered it. So you have Cronbach alpha, you have the validity check, and it's gone through an expert panel. That's what it sounds like. I think you've covered every base. I think you're in great shape. Shantisha asked a great question. Does it matter if you edit the survey? Yes. It depends how much you're doing it. If you're making substantial changes, it may need to be validated again. However, if you're just changing words like pronouns here and there, he, she, they, things like that, it doesn't necessarily need to be validated again. But if you're changing the meaning or if you're changing who the survey was designed for, if you're using a completely different population than the survey was intended for, then yes, you may need to validate the survey again. You're welcome. Okay. Heina asked, what is the website for developing a survey? Let me go to that slide. It's mids.org. So I'll put that in the chat box as well. Everybody will receive a copy of the presentation as well. Yep, you're welcome. I'm going to add that to the chat box. Okay, so that website is the website I was showing where you can search for a tool given a keyword, and it will provide previously validated surveys for you. Okay, do we have any additional questions? Okay, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if you have additional questions. And come join us again for the future webinars that we will be conducting. Sadie's did list those in the chat, but we will also be sending the presentation to you, and you'll see on the third slide, we have the webinar list.